at you with another episode of Tampa Bay Real Producers. This, of course, is the podcast made for real producers by real producers, and none other than Mr. Real Producer himself, Mr. Evan Pedone. Good to have you here today as a guest, buddy. How are you?
Good.
Yeah, man. Excited to dive into your story a little bit. We actually met really for the first time at a MVP social event.
Yes.
That we just hosted. What was that? I guess about a month ago, maybe.
Over a month ago, yep.
Yeah, over at the Canopy.
That's right.
In St. Pete. So it was a cool little event. That's because Evan was featured as our cover spotlight for the May 2023 issue. Mm-hmm. Congratulations on that, of course.
Thank you.
Doing an amazing job with your organization over there. So Evan is a top producer with Engel and Volkers,
yep.
Right? Focusing a lot on that beaches area. Would you say that's kind of a special area for you?
Absolutely, yeah. I definitely focus heavily on the islands, from Clearwater Beach all the way down to St. Pete Beach, even down as far as Boca Grande.
Very cool. So I think what we typically do with our podcast is start a little bit with your background.
Sure.
Just what got you to Tampa eventually? Did you grow up around here? If not, how'd you get yourself interested in real estate eventually? So we'll start there.
Sure. So I'm actually, I was actually from New York, okay, and served in the military. Came down here about 20 years ago, and then
what part of the New York?
White Plains, outside New York City.
Okay. I think I told you I grew up in Connecticut, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and I grew up, actually, we moved to Connecticut, so I went to Stanford High School.
There you go.
Love Connecticut.
We used to lose them to baseball every year.
Oh, yeah.
In baseball, I went to Danbury High, so.
But baseball's big up there.
Yes, it
Baseball's
is.
Very
they
big
take it
there.
seriously. Well, they do here too, but yeah, no doubt.
You got the Yankees, you got the Mets up
That's
there
right.
as well. So
that's right.
That helps. But so I got into real estate about 6.5, 7 years ago. Okay. I was in finance before that. I was working in banking, commercial banking to be specific. I was working on, bringing in new business for the bank. Unfortunately, I got laid off, and when that happened,
best blessing you ever had, huh?
Yeah, it was a blessing in disguise. And my wife and I already had another business that we were working on for many years in wedding photography, and I just you know what, being that I'm laid off, we had our one business, but I'm like, I'm gonna get into real estate, and we hit the ground running and never looked back.
Was there anything specific about real estate that appealed to you at the time, or what caused that decision, would you say?
It was very interesting. I was actually on Clearwater Beach. We used to have an Engel and Volker shop on Clearwater Beach.
Okay.
And I walked by the shop, and the setup and everything was fantastic, and I noticed they focused on this luxury line, and for some reason, it just caught my eye, and I was like, wow, I love beautiful homes, estates, manors, castles. You know what I mean?
Growing up in Westchester County, you had your fair share of that.
Yeah. I mean, we had some of these just gorgeous, amazing estates, and I was like, well, how cool would it be to be able to be a part of that world a little bit?
Yeah.
And so, I said, if I ever get into real estate, I made a decision. I go, that's the company I'm going to be a part of, is Engel and Volkers.
Okay.
And that's the truth. And that was actually years before I actually got into real estate.
And you were in Florida at the time.
I was in Florida at the time.
Yeah.
My wife and I, we lived over in Safety Harbor.
What brought you to the Florida area?
My mom was down here.
Okay.
And she lived on Clearwater Beach.
Okay.
And we stayed she had she was renting a pretty nice little place on Clearwater Beach. Mm-hmm. And I fell in love with Clearwater Beach. I also write. I think you know that.
Mm-hmm.
I've published a few books. Actually, my latest book just came out.
What's that called?
It's called A Dance of Eagles and Dragons.
There we go.
It's a political thriller.
A political thriller.
Yep,
I like it.
Yep, just came out, and we're just.
It's kind of got like a Game of Thrones sound to it.
Oh yeah. It does actually.
A Dance of Eagles and Dragons.
A Dance of Eagles and Dragons. And it is actually kind of a modern day. I guess you could look at it as a modern day Game of Thrones.
There you go.
Because eagles being, free countries, dragons being, Axis.
Communist countries? Okay.
I think China, things of that nature.
I love it.
Yeah, so it just came out the other day. And
nice.
I was just pushing it out. But I actually wrote my
first
first
plug
screenplay.
that. Yeah. The Dance of Eagles and Dragons. Is that right?
It's on Amazon.
Amazon right now, people. Go ahead. We're on live, by the way, right now on our Tampa Bay Real Producer Facebook page. So if you're checking us out live, press that Amazon button and help an author out over here, an aspiring author.
Check it out. I actually wrote my first screenplay on Clearwater Beach.
That's awesome.
Yep.
And I think you, Ryan Justice, shout out to Ryan, one of our videographers, he did a little work with you on that, didn't he? Or no?
Ryan's phenomenal. He's really a genius when it comes to film and so forth. And I actually produced a film years ago, about 15 years ago. I produced a film that was a horror film. You know, and,
that's right down his alley too.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And then Ryan and I met a few years back, hit it off, and he actually asked me, which I was gracious to be a part of one of his films that he did. He's done a few films now.
Yeah.
And it's called The Wild Man, which was a great film.
Yeah, I remember seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, it was really, it's impressive what he was able to do.
I didn't see the film, but I saw his promo of it. He actually put it in the Tampa Bay Real Producer issue one time.
Yeah, did he? Yeah, he did a great job with it, and he had me. You know, he actually had me in the film, had me killed off, which I don't know how I feel about that. But, you know, but it was cool. It was cool, and hopefully Ryan and I will do some more projects here in the near future.
Yeah, no doubt, absolutely. So you So I'm assuming you spend more time on your real estate career than you do on the author and the book side, but maybe I'm wrong.
Over the last six plus years, I've definitely spent night and day working in real estate.
Right.
And that, it's kind of branched out now to commercial real estate.
Okay.
And commercial real estate, selling hotels, things of that nature. So I do that now. I'm actually gonna probably switch a little bit and focus more back on residential. Okay. Just because I do both. So it's having.
What percentage of your focus is on commercial versus residential? Would you say over the last year?
Over the last year, it's been primarily commercial.
Has it? Okay.
Yeah, we have sold some really nice luxury condos. Yeah. Several $1 million luxury condos. My wife and I were a real estate team. She moved one of a Major League Baseball player up on North Clearwater Beach. Yep. That was if I recall right, it was the highest price per square foot on the beach, I believe. I mean, nice. I'm not 100%, but I know it was up there. Yeah. It was up there, so it was a good one.
Well, the fact that you've been splitting your time between commercial and residential makes it even more impressive to look at the numbers that you've gotten on the residential side. Sure. Because you are a top 500 producer. Yes. Or else you would not be on this podcast. Evan did over 20 million last year in residential. I think over 30 million.
Total was over 30. It's like 30... 34, 35, I believe 34, 35, somewhere around there.
And that was just in residential?
Total.
Oh, that was total. Okay, so that's why I saw 20 then, because it was around 20 on the residential side. The MLS doesn't pick up that commercial stuff.
Yeah, some of the commercial stuff we actually haven't reported. That makes sense. MLS, I don't believe. We keep it. We advertise it actually differently. Yep. Sometimes, or we move them as a pocket listing if we can.
That makes sense. Yeah. So I think where we can dive into for some minutes here is this focus you've had on the luxury side. I think it was cool when you mentioned that you just were attracted to this concept of estates and manners and wanting to be involved with that, right? In some way. I think that can probably resonate to some people who maybe are trying to get into luxury real estate for that same reason. Yeah. But I think sometimes that's a different animal too, to be involved with the luxury seller and the luxury buyer. Yeah. So it was 6 years ago that you got licensed. Is that true?
It was 7 years ago, actually.
Okay. Yep. Now, were you getting into luxury immediately, or did that evolve? So it was right from the get-go.
Yeah. So I just decided when I got into real estate, this is what I want to do. Yeah. And I didn't know how I was going to do it. Yeah. But I just said I figured it out on the way.
Makes sense.
I had I had a great support unit. Sherry Padishaw, Michael Wyckoff. They're I
like Michael a lot.
And Mike.
He's a good dude.
He's a good dude. They helped me out in breaking that ground, and they had their new office. I was there from basically the beginning when they opened up their office on Madeira Beach. Yep. And they were transitioning to that luxury market as well. Yep. Right. So they were primarily residential, like of all price points. Yep. And they just got the Engel and Volkers franchise, and I became a part of that really from the get-go. I was right there when they opened it up, the ribbon cutting and everything with the Chamber of Commerce. Okay. And I was like, all right, how do we start? At the time, I was like, I want to get $1 million property, because 7 years ago, $1 million property was quite a nice property in this area.
Things have changed a little bit.
Things have changed a lot since then. But the first $1 million property I got was in Apollo Beach, actually, which was on the other side of the bay.
Yeah, like the furthest commute you can have in Tampa Bay.
The furthest commute I could possibly have. Right. It was a plot of land, and I sold it.
Nice. So tell us a little bit more about what you've learned about just the luxury space. Like, what are the nuances with working with those types of buyers, those types of sellers? Sure. What do you think are some distinctions in that space compared to traditional real estate?
Well, from my experience, those type of buyers know a lot more. Mm-hmm. Okay, so they're more, you don't have to teach them.
More savvy.
More savvy. Yeah. But what I can say is this, is that you're married to them, basically.
Right.
They're going to demand more of you, of your time. You're going to be there 7 days a week, answering calls at all different times of the day.
Yep.
So it's a different kind of animal.
Yep.
I feel like, and it could be a lot more stressful.
Yep.
You got to be prepared for it. Some of my clients I've been blessed to have. I've been blessed to have NFL players. I sold Vinny Testaverde's property many years ago.
Good old Vinny.
Yep.
My wife used to dance for the New York Jets for a few years.
Yeah?
So that it was later than the Vinny days, but he played for Bill Parcells back in the day.
He did.
Yeah.
An amazing guy, amazing family. His wife Mitzi is an amazing person. Just a great people, and they had a beautiful estate on Lake Keystone. One of the most magnificent homes in the area. I mean, multi-story, multiple kitchens, tennis courts, basketball courts on Lake Keystone. It's just gorgeous. Kind of like how you would want to raise your family, your kids. 6 acres of land.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember selling that property.
The American dream, huh?
Yeah, really, really was, and just a great home. and those are the type of properties I like to represent. Those really marquee properties, whether it's 5 million, 10 million, 15 million, doesn't matter what, it's just those type of properties are special.
Yeah, and
they tell a story,
no doubt.
And even though these,
I would imagine your marketing strategy has to be much more robust, right?
Oh yeah. Our marketing strategy is second to none. Really, I tell my clients we leave no stone unturned. So when you list with someone like myself, or or angle invokers in general, but it's also how you utilize the tools that you have in your quiver, so to speak. How many arrows you got to go ahead and really market the property to bring the buyers in.
Right.
We market on an international level, so which is people often say international real estate, but what does that really mean, right?
Yeah.
But how do you market on an international level? I think the biggest thing is that we're going to put your property on every major real estate website around in many countries around the world. And then Angle Invokers is a company based out of Hamburg, Germany. So right there, we have a very strong European presence.
Sure.
And that European presence translates into European buyers looking that would
just the name alone, I would think, would create that attractiveness with the European buyer, right?
It does.
The luxury buyer.
It really does. And my wife and I, we were just at an Angle Invoker shop in Portugal last month.
We're going to talk about this trip you just took too.
It was a great trip.
We got to get into that.
It was a great trip. But meeting people and getting cards and building those networks up, you never know when you're going to be able to call upon that. And I mean, I've had help from my travels. I mean, I've traveled for work. I've been to meet the people in Paris, Rome. I mean, you name it. So it's important to have that wide exposure, especially when you're moving these type of properties, because a $5 million property or a $10 million estate or a $15 million estate, that buyer may not live here in the Tampa Bay area.
Yeah, no doubt.
They may have a corporation here. This may be their vacation home. You really don't know. They might just be diversifying their real estate portfolio.
Yep.
And want to hold properties here for whatever reason. So being able to bring those buyers in, what it really means is you're going to be able to bring the highest price point. It doesn't mean other realtors can't sell your property. There are other great luxury realtors besides myself and the Angle Invokers brand.
Yeah, there's a couple out there.
There's a couple out there, But really, I think that our brand truly and myself can compete with anyone at the highest level and deliver the highest level of service and the price point.
As a quick plug, we're actually going to host a panel for Tampa Bay Real Producers next month, July, and it's going to be on selling luxury real estate.
Okay.
So it'll be on July 20th, and we're going to have some agents on it. Hopefully, you can be one if you're interested. But we'd love to have you on a panel. It's a Thursday. It's a third Thursday of the month, so it's July 20th. It'll be at Whiskey Cake. It's where we usually run them.
Okay.
International Mall, if you know that area.
Yeah.
And so we have. I know Jennifer Orns is already going to be on the panel.
Yep.
She also focuses on the luxury luxury game out by you too.
Yeah.
And then we'll have probably 4 or 5 panelists that all focus on luxury on that panel. So
Sure.
we'd love to dive in a little bit deeper with you and in this conversation for sure.
Absolutely. I'm happy to.
But I think you were mentioning bringing the international focus on buyers. I was going to ask you that because I was curious, what percentage would you say of your buyers are local to Tampa Bay compared to the things that you bring in from other states or internationally?
Gosh, that's a great question. Percentage-wise. I've represented buyers from all over the world. I mean, I've had buyers from Beijing, China, tour my properties. I've had...
would you say most of your buyers, though, are not local? Or
I would say a significant of them are from outside the area. I don't want to quote a stat because I don't know off the top of my head. One thing about me is I know not to...
Make up numbers?
Yeah, I don't want to make up a number. But Canadians obviously have a lot.
You haven't heard that 75% of all stats are made up on the spot?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly, right? And it's accurate. What was it? 100% of the time, 60% of the time,
right?
Like that? But I've represented buyers from England that I've never met, closed on properties and sold.
Okay.
Matter of fact, I did that on a Newport Richie property. I sold off the Vanthor estate up there, which was a multi-million-dollar. I sold his yacht because we actually are. So Engel & Volkers is yacht brokers as well.
Yeah.
We also delve into private jets.
Yep.
So we moved his estate and his yacht and his land next door. And the buyer, I never met, coordinated with them in England. They purchased it. I actually sold it for a profit as well. Never met them in person, just on the phone and email. And sold it for them as well.
Nice.
So stuff like that,
Is there a particular country that you have found you have a good, network with, or have found a lot of buyers come from specifically, or is it just vary?
It does really, really vary. I mean, I've had buyers from Chile, South America come to my property. They had some socioeconomic things going on down there. There was concern at one time about where politically that country was going to go. Mm-hmm. So, I dealt with some buyers from there that were concerned about that. We're looking at moving their assets from that country to Florida.
Makes sense.
So, that's one of the things I can deal with. And obviously, not to toot my own horn here, but I did just write a political thriller that's geopolitical, So, in my background...
It's a perfect fit with all these international buyers.
I know, right? So I have some insight into what's going on in the world. My background in the military, I was in the Air Force and I was in the Army.
Thank you for your service.
Yep, my pleasure. And I was an intel analyst in the Army.
Nice.
So,
what years did you serve?
I started in '98 and served in the Air Force, and then I got out, and then I did a couple years in the Army.
Okay.
As well.
And you did go internationally as well? Did they send you out?
I did not go internationally at all. No, I'm not that cool. I'm not James Bond or anything like that. No, nothing cool like that.
I don't know. You look like Vin Diesel, so
well,
there could be some international intrigue going on.
If you're looking for some real estate, Vin, come on down.
Come on in.
I'll hook you
Any
up.
luxury buyer, we got your guy over here.
I'll hook you up.
We're going to get into some personal. I know you have to be jumping in about 5 or 10, but we'll talk about... But when we hooked up last time, you were about to go on this trip, right?
Yes. Yep.
And I know you just mentioned it, that you went to Europe for a while. Yes. What was that, a week or 2 or longer?
I was there for about 24, 25 days.
So almost a month.
Yeah.
So what were some of your favorite places to check out? What did you love?
It was great because we stopped off in the Azores,
okay,
in the middle of the Atlantic, which is just an island out in the middle of nowhere. Military people know about it because they use it, as an Air Force base. But we went to the Azores, went to the side of a volcano. That was pretty cool.
Nice.
And then, we went to Portugal, Spain, which was, they're great countries, great people. Ended up in France. Love France. The food.
Drink some Bordeaux.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And
took my daughter, to Disneyland Paris.
Nice.
Which
my kids are wanting to go there for sure.
It's amazing. I'm going to, not spoiler if you have,
They watch the rides on YouTube and they're like, Daddy, when are we going to go to Disneyland Paris? Because we have the annual pass here. Yeah. But now they're spoiled and they want to check out the other ones,
Yeah. Well, Disney World's amazing. I'm not going to talk bad about our own park.
Right.
Disneyland Paris is pretty magical.
Yeah.
And it's definitely worth going.
We did go to the one, we went to Disneyland just this year in March with the kids. And
nice.
Spent a week out in California.
Yeah.
And so that was cool just for something different. And it is the original and all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, I think there'd be something special about the Paris one, and even my younger son wants to go to Tokyo.
Oh yeah,
and,
wow,
and go to the one out there. So he's got these, big dreams, big goals. Yeah.
Well, there you go. You should do it.
We'll have him on a podcast one day. What was your favorite part of the trip? Anything stand out?
Probably Scotland.
Was it?
Yeah. We had tea in Edinburgh Castle, And then
that's awesome.
We shot up to Loch Ness. We also had tea at Kensington Palace.
Nice.
And
Is it just you and your wife?
Me and my wife and my daughter.
And your daughter, yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
And
how old is she?
4.
Nice.
Yeah, she's 4 years old.
That's a cool memory.
Yeah, she's
if she'll remember it.
She's amazing. Yeah, she's just my daughter's just absolutely everything.
That's
awesome.
What I
mean? But yeah, so
Daddy's little girl, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. But Scotland, Scotland and England is an absolutely amazing country. The whole UK.
Yeah. I've been to Ireland for a week. Never Scotland though.
Have you?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you this: I could move there in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I literally fell in love with it. Fell in love with the food, the people.
Yeah.
And it's just.
I mean, those castles are pretty sick. I would have to imagine.
The castles are great.
That would be a fun experience.
I ate. People. I don't know how people are gonna feel. I ate my fair share of haggis.
Haggis.
I
have not had a haggis.
I ate so much. I didn't think I was gonna love it, and I absolutely loved it. And
is it meat?
What? Why don't you research what?
I will have to. I'm not even familiar with.
You're gonna be and after you research what it is, you're gonna be like, what the heck?
Evan is a haggis fan, and I don't even know what the heck it is.
Okay, I'll give you. I might gross people out here.
Okay,
so it's like if I understand this correctly,
we've done worse.
They cook these organs and oats in sheepskins in a sheep's stomach.
Okay. So it's the sheep's organs.
Yeah, I believe so. Yes, my understanding with the oats and everything. I'm not the chef. I'm just the eater.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
I can see that. They do love their sheep meat. I think I've heard out there.
So it was phenomenal.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know. And
haggis. I never would have thought that would have been.
They have it on breakfast rolls. Everything. I had it. Of course, I tried it.
Is it just a Scottish thing?
It is their national. I believe it's their national dish.
Okay.
Yeah, so I had it fried first, because that's the safe way to go. Because almost anything fried will taste okay, right?
Gotcha.
And then I was like, oh, this is quite good, And then I was like, let me have it the traditional way, and I had it the traditional way. I had it for breakfast, dinner.
Wow.
And
there you go, people. Haggis. Check it out.
Yeah.
We might have bring it. There's a movement happening, I hear.
After I started eating it, I started growing a beard. So I was wondering if you had it, But,
yes, I did. I shaved my beard a little bit, I think, since the last you saw me. So I'm going to have to get on the haggis kick, I guess.
It's like, gosh, I feel like, I feel kind of like a Highlander up here,
All right, we're going to do some rapid fire personal questions so the audience can get to know you a little bit more before you have to jump. And then I always like to end off with kind of like what I call it a legacy question to get you to think a little deep about that. But do you have a favorite book, or you might be something you wrote, but a book or an author, or maybe an author or a seminar that you've attended that you think has made a big impact on you?
Sure. So seminars wise, I would say Tony Robbins. I haven't been to his seminar, but I read his books.
Yep.
Awaken the Giant Within, Unlimited Power.
His events are life changing. I've been to for a whole year. I went.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
Watched his videos. So I think Tony Robbins is absolutely amazing.
Yep.
I listen to some motivational speakers like Les Brown as well. Phenomenal.
He's old school.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's been around for a while.
Been around for a while. Book wise, author wise, Michael Crichton. Absolutely love Michael Crichton.
Okay.
As an author, read Jurassic Park, Eaters of the Dead, which was basically 13th Warrior.
Yeah.
Sphere, all those things.
How many books have you written now?
That's my third novel.
And your first one was written when? My
first one was written after I got out of the military. It had been about 2007. It was called Assassin's Mace. It was a political thriller.
So all fiction books, right?
All fiction.
Yeah.
Took my theory on asymmetrical warfare because it was based on a war with China.
Okay.
Assassin's Mace was, and they put it in the college textbook. My theory on asymmetrical warfare.
Nice.
And then, which was kind of cool. I was actually kind of surprised that I was actually quoted by my novel, because that was my first novel.
Nice.
My second novel was called Expedition Everest.
Okay.
Expedition Everest, an action-adventure novel.
That's a ride at Disney, I think, isn't it?
It is actually a ride at Disney. The Forbidden Mountain, they call it, though. Yeah.
Right.
I wrote that back in 2008.
Okay.
And I'm having and we're gonna go. I'm actually working on the sequel for that right now.
Nice.
And then of course my third. I took a hiatus from writing, and then my writing skills have improved tremendously, I feel like. And then so A Dance of Eagle and Dragons is my longest novel. It's probably my biggest work, so far. Took a lot.
You got more in you?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Right now I have the sequel to Expedition Everest, which is well along its way. I also have the sequel to A Dance of Eagle and the Dragons, because that's a series.
Nice.
And then I also have another novel coming out that is fantasy based. It'll be medieval.
Very cool.
And yeah, so that one's also well along.
I feel like we can have an entire podcast episode just talking about what it takes to get books out there, you know, because I know that's a topic that I think people would find fascinating. Sure. And I wish we had more time to dive into it, but we'll have to have you on another episode sometime to dive into all that.
Yeah.
And if you are available on July 20th, I'd love to have you as a panelist on the Selling Luxury Real Estate, and we can talk more about that too.
Sure.
Because I think you have a lot to offer in that space.
Sure.
I want to end with a question that I think always gets some fascinating responses, which is a legacy thought. So, you know, we all work really hard. You're a top producer because you put time into making this happen. And of course, your business matters. Your family, I think you've proven is a very high priority in your time and what you've done with even just the trip you just took. Not a lot of people that are top in real estate can take a month and go travel with their 4-year-old and their wife. That shows you a lot about where your priorities are. And I applaud you for that. What do you think, Evan, would matter most to you when you think about what you want to be known for when your career's done, you're sitting on the rocking chair drinking your lemonade, and you're looking back? What do you think would matter the most to you in terms of your legacy and what means most to you?
Being a good father.
That's a great answer. Yes. Yeah, I have 5 kids myself. I think we talked about that briefly at the event.
Yeah, it'd definitely be being a good father, being a good husband. That's all that matters.
Did you have a good relationship with your parents?
Yeah. You know, my father, my parents divorced, unfortunately, at a young age. So, but I love my father dearly, love my mother dearly. I think that as a parent, when you get real, there's the real things that matter is not how much real estate I sell. No one's going to care about that. There's going to be some other young gun or someone that outperforms me.
Right.
My time selling real estate, even though I enjoy it, I'll always give my clients great service. It's not really what matters.
Right.
Because your why is not, hey, Evan Pedone sold this much or made this much money. That doesn't matter. It doesn't have any substance to it. What matters is what you do with those accomplishments. And for me, it's really about trying to be the best husband I can be or being the best father I can be. The first thing I did, because there was a time, in my life being true, I had no money, and wasn't successful. I mean, working in banking, people may look at that as being a decent job, but it wasn't like I was where I'm at now. And the first thing I did when I had any kind of money was I took care of my daughter. I took care of her education. So I think that, what is your why? Why do we do this? We can enjoy what we're doing. We can enjoy the relationships and connections. It's great to meet people like you. It's great to have those camaraderie with your real estate team, and it's good to have those friendships. And it's good to meet these clients from all around the world. I do love meeting people from all around the world. I feel like I learned something from these individuals. Sure. Every single time I meet a CEO or a baseball player or an NFL player or a hockey player, movie producer or an actor, you feel like, you get to know a little bit about them. Hopefully you learn something from them. But the real substance is family. Yeah. So I'll tell anybody that wants to succeed in life, no matter what that is, whatever your passion is, even in my novels, like I love to write. Okay. And that's that's me inside there. I love to write, but ultimately it's what I leave for my family with it. My wife and my daughter. It's
a great legacy.
So yeah, and that's all that matters. Awesome. And hopefully hopefully I'll live forever, but when I'm long gone, hopefully my daughter and, everyone can look back and go, he was a good husband, good father. That's what
I love it, man. I know as a dad myself, it's just an awesome responsibility. That's what it gets me emotional actually when I think about it.
Yeah. I was almost getting emotional there thinking about it.
Yeah. Just the thought that you have these little ones who view you as almost a god. You're looked at in a certain way, and it's an awesome responsibility. It really is.
Yeah. My daughter always says, my daddy can lift up the YMCA. I told her, she asked me one time if I could lift up the YMCA, and I go, of course I can. Right. And she goes, and now she tells everyone, my daddy can lift up the YMCA.
That's cute.
But yeah,
my kids say, Daddy's a genius. I think it's because I tell them that, but yeah.
It's crazy. We're imperfect individuals, trying to be perfect.
Amen.
So.
Yeah, man. Dude, this was fun, and I want to have you back sometime to talk deeper because you're a fascinating dude, and I think we can go in a lot of different directions with our conversation.
Sure.
I always like to challenge the audience, whether you're watching on Facebook Live or you're listening on one of our episodes here on YouTube. What is one thing as we end this episode that you can take from this episode that's going to help you move forward, whether it's in your business or in your personal life? Mm-hmm. Maybe it's you're somebody who's curious about selling luxury real estate, and you might just want to pick Evan's brain a little bit about how he got into it, how he's thrived in it, and just reaching out to Evan for a cup of coffee might be a starting point, right? Or maybe you just want to, make the decision to get into luxury real estate for the first time, or learn a little bit more about the international buyer's market and figure that out. There's some stuff we talked about there that maybe is that action step for you, or maybe it's you want to write a book and you're inspired by what Evan's been able to do. So, but can you take one thing, right? One action step that would have made this time worth it, that you invested in watching this episode? If you do that, then I think what we're doing is purposeful, and it makes it intentional and makes it worth it. So go out there and crush it for the rest of your week, and we will see you on the next episode of Tampa Bay Real Producers. Stay classy, guys.
Thank you.